Welcome to the Sencast. My name is Dale Pickles. I'm the host of the Sencast and I'm also the managing director of B Squared. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Sencast. In this episode of the Sencast, we discussed student self-advocacy in schools and how schools can empower their students. And my guests this week were Claire Cannon, a national inclusion consultant from Indigo Coaching and Consultancy, and Alice Phillips, a student taking her GCSEs this year, who is also a neurodiversity advocate. The Sencast is created and produced by us here at B Squared. We have a range of assessment frameworks for a wide range of students, and today I'm going to mention our new alternative provision framework. This framework was developed by Philip Parker of Inspired Ed to help alternative provision setting in supporting students to reintegrate into mainstream education wherever appropriate. It covers 5 key areas: emotional self and identity, personal management independence, relationships and communication, thinking and achievement, and society and citizenship. And in the show notes, you'll find a link to the B Square website and a link to book a meeting with me to find out more. Let's get on with that podcast. My guests this week are Claire Cannon, a national inclusion consultant from Indigo Coaching and Consultancy, and Alice Phillips, a student taking her GCSEs this year, who is also a neurodiversity advocate. Claire has over 20 years' experience in education, including being a SENCO and an assistant head teacher, and Claire delivers CPD around SEND and SEMH, and also provides support around the legal processes, including EHCNAs and tribunals. And as I mentioned, Alice is taking her GCSEs this year and has an adapted timetable to reduce stress and anxiety. Alice has already delivered CPD to schools and is passionate about advocating for young people with neurodiversity. Welcome to the show, Claire and Alice.
Hello. Hi.
Welcome. So in the Children's Commissioner's Report, there were 4 words that the Commissioner felt were key to education and unlocking potential, and those words were attend, engage, attain and excel. And they are great words. I'm not being sarcastic. I really think they are important, but the one that is crucial to it all is engage. Often when we think of engagement, we think of students engaging with their learning, but what about those working in schools engaging with students? Engaging with and listening to our students is crucial.
I would take that and I could really run with it, because for me, if you don't understand where your students are coming from, it's all, you're effectively creating a system where you're doing things to people rather than doing them with people. And if we think about good leadership of a school, we always talk about working with our team, getting people on board, doing things in a collaborative way, but yet students are very much done too. Now, yes, there will always be an element of, you need to follow certain rules. You do need to have certain systems and procedures in a school that are decided by the adults and the students need to follow. But when we're talking about supporting different needs, particularly as students go into secondary school and very much more able to advocate and articulate how things affect them, how things impact them, we shouldn't just assume that we know because we're the adults. So for me, it is really, really important to actually ask the students and say, what is it that you need? I can offer you these sorts of things, but actually, would they suit you? Do you need something different? Do you need to tweak it in some way? And actually, some of the best support that I've seen has come from ideas that the students have had themselves. Things that, as an adult, as someone that, as far as I know anyway, neurotypical, I didn't think of. And why would I? Because I'm not in their shoes. I'm not the person that is experiencing these things day in, day out. So for me, asking that question, and of families, these are the families that live with their young people, obviously, and they have that direct experience. They see the fallout in many cases from school the impact that school has. And too many times I hear examples where people come to me and they say, I feel ignored, I feel dismissed, or they have listened to me, but they haven't really taken on board what I've said. So there's definitely something around unpicking why that is happening. And then the power that it can have when you do listen, when you do stop and think, actually, what has that person just said to me? What do they really need? And then what does that look like in practice? But this is about student self-advocacy, not about, staff. That's kind of the point of the conversation. So I think I should bring Alice in at this point and just ask Alice about, how she has found things when she has been able to share with staff what she needs and how that helped. I'm going to hand that over to Alice now.
Yeah, personally, I think as a student who has dealt with situations like that, I found it very annoying when staff would kind of assume what students need or what they need to help them. And I find that when I did have select few of staff members that actually listened to me and let me tell them what helps and what doesn't help, I felt more confident, and it made me feel as though I was actually a person and that people could actually listen to me and that I wasn't just this thing that they could control, kind of. I think it is very important that staff members should listen to students' voices and find out what helps and what doesn't. Because what might help me might not help someone else, and vice versa. And I find a lot of staff do kind of assume that, and they kind of think that, oh, this works for this student, so it should work for this one. But in reality, it doesn't work like that. So I do respect staff members when they do listen to you and they hear what you have to say.
Can I just pick up on that? On the last sentence you said of I respect staff members who listen to me. And I think that's respect is an important word. Respect should be two-way. You should be respected and listened to. And I was always told as a child, respect your elders. I think that lasts about that long. And after that, respect is earned. And I think, and it isn't just a case of letting you say your bit and then moving on. To me, there are two parts of listening. One is hearing it, and the second bit is then taking action based on what you've said. And that's when you really demonstrate, I have heard you.
That's really interesting because, Alice, you actually shared an example today, and I'm not going to say, names here, because that wouldn't be fair, but you shared an example today where you couldn't advocate for yourself, you couldn't be heard. It was to do with your hoodie and why you had it on at a specific time. So,
yeah,
do you want to say more about that? Because obviously you were there, it's your experience.
Yeah, so that annoys me a lot because with certain things help me, and quite a lot of teachers understand that, and they know that that's something that helps me, and I will stop doing it or whatever when I'm ready to. But when I have a teacher that doesn't understand that necessarily, or they keep asking me to do something, even if it's helping me, I almost kind of shut down at that point if they've asked a lot of questions multiple times. and it kind of like shuts me down, and I don't know. It's not that actually that I don't know, it's more that I struggle to communicate after that, and I feel as though if they won't let me speak, then clearly I'm not important enough to get my voice across and to be heard. Um, and that does annoy me a lot when there are teachers like that, because I feel like you said, that respect is two-way, it's not just one way. And I think it's important to have a good relationship with your teachers, because obviously they're going to be there helping support you with school and that. So I think it is very important to have that kind of relationship with a teacher. Otherwise, it can cause a lot of stress and anxiety, like I've had to deal with. Um, and it's very awkward to kind of get your point across when you don't feel as confident around them as you might do with another teacher.
Definitely.
Yeah. I was just thinking a little bit more about that word respect, because I've spent quite a lot of time thinking about why is it that some staff, some schools don't listen as much to the students as perhaps they could. And I quite often find myself thinking, oh, perhaps they're just assuming that the students are trying to get out of work, or they're just assuming that the students are being lazy. But actually, that idea of respect is really interesting, because when you put your hood up today, Alice, some people could have seen that as you disrespecting the school rule, because you're not for most students, you would say you shouldn't be walking around with your hood up. But for you, there was a completely different reason, but you weren't able to explain why.
And one thing I find with rules like that, just to interject, is you're in year 11?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So you've known the school rules for 5 years. So for 5 years, you know the uniform rules. Whether you agree with them or not, you know them. You know every single rule. So when you see a child in year 11 not following the rules they've known for 5 years, there's probably a good reason.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it is annoying when you're kind of not kind of picked on, but they notice you more because you've been there longer and you know the rules, but they just seem to think that you're disrespecting them and you're acting up. But in reality, they don't understand that that's not the case at all. It's completely different to what they have assumed. Um, and I do find that very annoying. But yeah, I agree with that.
One thing I was really rubbish at in secondary school, I remember reading or being read and hating it, Romeo and Juliet, and being asked, and what do you think he wanted to achieve there? And I'd look at the text and go, well, he probably wants to do that. No, look at the subtext. Read between the lines, all this lot. And me going, well, there's blank space there. I never really got it. But at the same time, if I see a child now in year 11 with a hoodie on instead of their typical uniform or whatever, I'd be going, oh, I hope they're having a good day, because there's a reason they're not doing what... I can read between the lines. I know what they should be doing. I can see they're not. There's probably a reason. And I sometimes think that, but again, the thing is, it's not intentional. It is the pressures and the busyness those schools are under, and they're running along, and it almost like they don't have time to read between the lines and go, ooh.
That's another really interesting point, I think, and I will let Alice pick up on this, but, that thing of having a system and absolutely following it, you see that a lot. So Alice, just to think of another example of when I was on site with you, and this is not because it was me, I mean, it should really have been whoever had come along. You were sat in the corridor near the office where I used to work, and I think you were supposed to be in English. And at that particular point in time, you were struggling a lot because you're blinking, which is one of your tics, isn't it? Was quite significant. And another member of staff, very well meaning, had tried to encourage you to the lesson, which it was never going to work because you couldn't actually focus on what was going on. But the system then in the school is you get a consequence because you didn't follow the instruction of the member of staff, and also you are missing a lesson. So a very rigid, not, like you say about not seeing between the lines, not reading the situation, because that member of staff had somewhere else to be. So they've gone, I've asked you, you didn't do it, bang, this happens, they move on. And you were just, for a little while you were sat in the corridor, but I know we managed to sort that out for you. But I guess I just wonder sort of how you think those things could be changed and what impacts that would have, how it would make it better.
Yeah, I do have a lot of situations like that, and it annoys me a lot because they're not understanding that I physically am going to struggle in there, not just mentally. And I find that some teachers think it's just behaviour because I really can't be bothered to go to that lesson. But they don't understand the struggles that I'm having. And I find that very frustrating. But then at the same time, you can't really blame them because they don't understand what you're dealing with. So they don't know what to do or how to react. And I think, personally, I would say that every teacher in the school, no matter their role, should have an understanding of STEM, and they should do some training. They don't have to do years of it, but a little bit of training just so they understand it and they're not blaming everything on behaviour or all of that. And I think that would help a lot, and it would mean a lot less anxiety and stress for students going into school who do struggle with that.
So I always listen, as I'm listening, my head just fires off in lots of questions. And one of the things I think when I hear the word training, again, I have my nephew struggled in school, and he is autistic, and he was struggling, and we went in for a meeting, and we asked what training have the school had, and the Senko went, "Would I deliver it?" Cool. What training do you get? And her response was, "Well, I've been a Senko for 20 years. I don't need training. I know autism." And I sometimes think, current world, we have this diagnosis led of what autism is, what Tourette's is, what ADHD is. And they give someone a list of this is what it is. It's like, okay, that's a selection of the common that doesn't define a single thing, and I am autistic and ADHD. So only a few of those and a few of those fit me. So knowing all that stuff about autism or knowing all that stuff about ADHD probably won't help you help me, apart from understanding probably a very basic thing of find out from them, get to know them, they will show you, even at primary school level and younger.
Yeah, I think a lot of research in that kind of moulds this kind of view of disabilities, neurological diversity. And I think when people read up about it, they're not necessarily learning about it. Yes, they're finding out information about it, but it's different for everyone. Like, everyone with Tourette's doesn't have the same tics. I have completely different tics to someone else. We might share a similar tic, but it doesn't mean we're the same. And I feel like a lot of people just see this research and assume that, oh yeah, this person has autism, so this person's struggling with the same things. But in reality, it's nothing like that. Someone with autism, they might need something to help them, but then that thing might not help another student with it. And I think that affects a lot of students at school because people have just read up about it and kind of assume that, oh yeah, this will work for you, it's worked for other people before. But they're not understanding that it's not based on research, it's based on getting to know that student and understanding what they go through day to day and how that the school can help that and understand them without assuming that something's going to help them.
I think one of the things that stood out for me when you did your presentation to the whole staff was, I don't know, 50, 60 people. You came in early, didn't you, before the school day to do that, is there were people afterwards that they said, I didn't know that. I had no idea. Yet they could all have said, oh yes, we know Alice has diagnosis of Tourette. But they didn't. You're so right, because they had no idea the actual personal impact on you. And for me, that's the absolute crucial point of why student voice is so important and should be so central to everything that schools are doing. The other thing I think you really proved to people is that it's not a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that because a lot of people that I've met recently who don't work at the school but an agency that the school got in. I actually had one person the other day who only really knew about Tourette's through the BAPAs. And I felt annoyed by that because they've only really found out about it kind of through TV and they don't understand how it affects someone's day-to-day life. And personally, it's affected my mental health really bad at points. But they don't understand that because they're just looking through it through a TV screen and think that they understand. And it really annoys me because they're not learning about it and they're not understanding the amount of stress and anxiety it can cause in a person. And it's not just Tourette's, it's other disabilities as well. And I feel like the world now is all kind of linked through social media and not everything on social media is true. And it really annoys me because young kids and teens are seeing stuff through social media, but it might not necessarily be true. So they're learning about something that's not even real. And then it has this effect on other people. Say they watch a video about ADHD and it's completely false information, none of it's true, but they think it's true because they've seen a video of it, and then one of their friends has ADHD and they're saying all this stuff about it, that's not even relevant to it. And I think that can have a massive effect on society and on the world, because they're just finding out false information, and it's not going to help anyone. In fact, it can probably make it worse for those who are struggling.
I've seen quite a few videos recently, and it is, you do see, like with Tourette's, you will see lots of videos of people's tics. Oh, so Tourette's is just tics. No, it's not. But that's the sort of kind of, that's what you see. That's a bit that's portrayed. That's a bit that's shown. But same with ADHD is you'll be going, okay, I'm struggling with this, but I'm not struggling with that. I'm doing all right here. Then you'll watch a video of this is what ADHD is. And you're sort of going, am I ADHD? Because I can, what? Hang on. And it's kind of, it can misrepresent. They can take the typical things and say, this is ADHD. It's like, no, this isn't. This is a flavour of. This is strawberry mango ADHD. This is that version, which I don't have. And I sometimes feel that, again, we love our tribes. We love to feel like we belong. And I sometimes worry that when we start kind of not promoting, because it's not, I'm not saying hide it. I'm not saying don't celebrate it. I'm not saying that. But sometimes when we go for the big sellers of what ADHD or what autism is, it's almost like people going, well, I need to do that because I am autistic and I want to feel like I belong to the autism community. And it can really kind of get into your head of, is that me? Should that be me? Am I an imposter? Because I don't do that. And I think we really need to help people understand the full impact of autism, ADHD, Tourette's, and so on.
I completely agree.
Yeah, I actually.
Go on, Alice, because you're the one. You're the one that can say it from the heart. But I do completely agree.
I had someone in my year when, I think it was a year after I got diagnosed with Tourette's, and he went round the school saying that I was faking it. But I was merely masking it because I felt like I couldn't be myself. And actually, when he went round the school saying that I was faking it, I actually doubted myself that I actually had it. And I actually thought for a bit that maybe I am faking it. But really, he just got inside my head and made me believe something that wasn't true, just because he didn't think I had it. And that annoys me a lot. And it annoys me as well when other people see me around the corridor ticking, and they're like, oh, I think I have that. So every time I see someone, I say hello. I've actually had someone come up to me and say that, and it destroys me inside. It's a horrible feeling that I just can't shake. And it really annoys me because it feels as though they believe that it's not an actual diagnosis and it's not even a disability, it's just me wanting attention. But they don't understand that I don't want the attention. I don't want people looking at me when I go shopping. I don't want people telling me to be quiet when I'm at the cinema. Even though I can't help it, I don't want that attention. Even if I didn't have it, I still wouldn't want that attention because it's just too much. And I do feel sorry for others who feel like that as well, because it's not fair and it's not right at all. And that we should all be respectful and kind to each other, because we really don't know what's going on in someone else's life and we don't know what they're struggling with. Even if they tell you, you still really don't understand it and know, even though you might think it. It destroys me a lot.
You touched on something there, which my colleague John's daughter mentioned, that she'd been somewhere, she got something wrong and she knew it. And she'd upset someone. When that girl pointed it out, it made it even worse because she'd already knew. And if you're making noise, if you're ticking in the cinema, you already know that actually, you already know it inside. And then someone pointing it out, it's like, I can't control it. What do you want me to do? And it's that sort of thing. You already know you don't want to be ticking there. You don't want to be doing that. You don't want to be ruining it. You don't want to be... And then when someone does, it's like, this is 100 times worse now. Thank you.
Yeah, I've actually had that in a lot of my classes at school, and people have pointed it out and asked me loads of questions. And I would gladly answer them questions, but when they pointed it out at first and drew everyone else's attention towards it, that made it worse. And when it gets worse, personally, talking about it sometimes just gets a lot, and it is really difficult to cope for me personally. But I've also had people before who have kind of took the mickey and copied my tips, and that also tells me that they've noticed it, which then gets my anxiety up, which then makes me tick more, which then makes it more difficult for me to learn and have a good education at school, because I feel as though I can't be in that class because I'm going to start to tick, and it's just going to get worse and it won't get better.
One of the things you said to me as well, given that we're talking about people listening to students, is that sometimes when you have removed yourself from that situation because you know that it has the potential to escalate, and that's not a good thing, and why would you want to have that happen? Nobody would want to have that happen to them. You've then had people, in their eyes, probably trying to be kind, but talking to you, staff trying to say, come back to the next lesson, go and do this, at the same time as you've been trying to say, I don't know when I'm going to be ready. How long is it going to take? I don't know till I feel like I can go back in, if at all. And I think it's interesting when you said earlier on about, you can't control it, but they're not hearing that. And you've got your adapted timetable. You're not in school full time. I know you've said before, in an ideal world, you would be. You'd just do the same as everyone else. And I wonder what difference it would make if people really had listened to you much earlier on when you were younger.
Yeah, I feel like if I was listened to when I was young, but I feel like that would have gave me the confidence earlier on. And really, I only started to stop masking at school probably actually year 10. So it's took from year 7 to year 10 for me to feel comfortable, not really comfortable, but still comfortable to tick in school. But still, I get students who don't understand it and who point it out or look at it funny. And it's a lot for anyone to really handle. But I find as well, when teachers try to get me to go back to lesson, they're not understanding that actually, right now, I need to be in a small space where I feel comfortable so that I can calm down. And then when I feel ready to go back to lesson, and sometimes I go to the nest, which is a space where I go when I don't do a certain lesson. And sometimes I just need to go there during a lesson that I may attend, yeah, but I can't be in a full class right now because it's too much. And they're just thinking, oh yeah, you just want to get out of lesson. Look, and they just come to me and they're like, look, your teacher wants you in that lesson. It's really important. You've got your GCSEs around the corner. And then when teachers say that to me, they don't understand it, but it gives me more stress. it makes me feel more heightened, and then that makes my tics worse and I can't calm down. And they're sat there for like 10-15 minutes trying to convince me to go to a lesson, and they're not understanding why I physically can't, and they're just assuming that I want to get out of lesson, and then they say, I'm going to have to sanction you. But that just is, when teachers say that, it makes it worse as well, because they've just threatened to sanction me when I physically and mentally can't help my Tourette's, and it really hurts inside when I do have moments like that at school, and when teachers who have taught me before and they still don't understand it, it really it's not nice.
I think not nice is an understatement.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, going right back to the beginning where I talked about that engagement, I talked about engaging with your students, I talked about listening, and listening, you demonstrate listening through action. So when you say, I get overloaded by this, I need a quiet, calm space that I'm in, someone talking at you is not a calm, quiet space. Someone talking at you for 15 minutes is not really helping. And that's that bit about listening. And some people, it's nice having someone next to you, and sometimes just babbling on inane rubbish. Actually, so you don't think about yourself, you end up listening. It can be quite nice for some people. But for others, it's no, I just need silence. I need quiet. I need to just bring myself down. And there's so many things you touched on there. So I've got a daughter who's autistic, and she's just passed her theory test. Well done. But the whole thing around that anxiety about passing, the whole, you doing much work towards it, telling her, asking her, have you done any work on your theory test? That just heightens her anxiety. You ask her, that's a block. She now can't do any revision or any learning for a couple of hours because you've asked her. You're pointing at that she's not doing enough. That's what she's hearing. But she's dealing with everything else that's going on. She's doing the best she can. It might not be how I would do it, but that's how she's doing it. That's how she's dealing with it. And I've learned that with my daughter. I've learned it through her GCSEs. I'm learning how she is at college. I've learned not to ask. Or I said, I just go, oh, how are you? She would choose to tell me. She would choose not to. And the final bit I just want to kind of say, which I found really kind of disappointing, is you've been at that school for 5 years. You didn't come in part way through. You've been there for 5 years. And you felt safe-ish enough to unmask in year 10. Now, I would be absolutely heartbroken for me as a leader of a school that one of my students has hid part of them, which takes huge physical, it's a huge mental and physical drain on you, hiding that part of you. Yes, you can keep them down, but it's a cost. The fact that for 3-4 years, one of my students has to hide that from them. The fact that as a whole school, her year group don't understand her needs, and in year 10 and 11 are still going, oh, so you tick. Oh, so this means this. To me, how many other children in your school do you point at and go, oh, you've got this? That's inclusion, yeah? Educating everyone so you don't stand out, so you feel part, you feel included. So when someone sees you ticking, perhaps it might just squeeze your arm, probably going, you're probably having a rough time because you're ticking, because you're stressed. I'm here. That's inclusion. That's belonging. Educating everyone so everyone understands those children's needs. Or am I mad?
No, I agree with that actually, and I think you have a good point with inclusion, because it is really important for people your own age to not point at you and exclude you because you're different. And I did have that for a bit, where people would just say, "Oh, don't talk to her, she's weird," and that would break my heart, because then I start to believe that, and it takes a toll on my mental health, and it's not nice when you don't feel like happy and normal within yourself, and you don't feel as though you can just be you. But when I've had other people come up to me and start talking to me, and then someone else has said, "Oh, don't talk to her, she's weird," and they just ignore that person, that makes me really happy inside, because it shows me that people do notice me. I do have someone that I can talk to, and someone who I can hang out with. And I think that's very important to have when you're growing up. And I also, the bit where you said about driving tests and that, a lot of people in my year are thinking about getting their provisional because they're old enough, I think. And I actually turned around to someone the other day and I said, there is actually the possibility I might not be able to ever drive because of my Tourette's. And that surprised them, actually, because they just kind of guessed that, oh yeah, you'll be able to take it, surely. They didn't even think about how my disability might affect me. And even thinking about not being able to drive, it freaks me out, because I would feel like I'd have to use other people just to go to the shops, let's say. And I'd feel bad for that other person, because it would look as though I'm using them. But in reality, I'm just trying to live my life as best as I can. And I think that people don't understand how a simple thing can affect someone. Even like a sly comment as well, that can affect someone massively. And people don't understand the struggles that others have. They just kind of think everyone's normal. But in reality, no one is normal. We all have something about us that's different and quirky. And I think it's important that everybody understands that, and that the world and the society needs to understand that no one is normal. No one can be normal. Normal shouldn't even be a word, personally. It's overused, I think, as well. And it annoys me when people say, "Oh, you're not normal, are you?" But they don't understand the effect that might have on someone. And I feel sorry for people who are struggling with that at the minute, because I've been through it and I've had to deal with it, so I know the struggle that it can be. And I do want to add as well, with my school, actually, I've only recently been able to wear a hoodie, because we have blazers at our school, but their collar rubbed on my neck when I tipped. And every day I'd come home with a massive red patch on the back of my neck. And me and my mum fought the school for ages, trying to allow me to wear a hoodie. And it was a plain black hoodie, but they kept saying no. And I think it was when Claire came that Claire allowed it. And that made me so happy, because someone noticed me, someone understood that would help me. And I still have to deal with it today with listening to music, because when I listen to music, it helps me cope with my tics. But I still get told to this day that I'm not allowed to listen to music. But sometimes, if I'm really in a situation, I just put my headphones in and I listen to music, because it's not fair that the school aren't allowing something that helps me cope with my disability. It's almost as though they're just seeing it as an excuse to go on my phone. But really, I don't want to do anything else on my phone. I just want to listen to music to help me. And they're not understanding that, because they think everyone's the same. Every teenager wants to be on their phone 24/7. But really, I just want to do something that helps me calm down and take a moment. And if I could, I'd bring my cats into school, because that helps as well. Having one of them to just comfort me. But I have kind of understood that I can't really bring a pet into school. So music is my next option.
But
I think you're. Oh, sorry, no. I think Alice's point there when you said about me allowing you. For me, Alice, what you said earlier on about I'm just trying to do my life as best I can. That, for me, has got to be the starting point. We don't assume, like you've just said, oh, they just want to be on their phone. They just want to duck out of lesson. They just want an excuse not to do their work. I don't know why some people have that perception of young people, because I don't, maybe I'm just me, I don't know, but I've always will come at it from the point of, you're trying to do your best. You're telling me as it is. That's our starting point. And the more the more people like you that are willing to stand up and say that from lived experience, the better, because you are just putting so much power in your own hands by doing that.
I like the bit about, again, the school rules. I can't bring my pet in. Yeah, I got to go with that one. You already know. You kind of look at it and go, yeah, I completely get that. But no, putting my headphones on and just putting some music on, you also know there is no real reason for that as well. There is no real reason. I bet you no one's ever given you a reason apart from you just can't. And that's that. It's the way it is. Because I said so. All those sorts of things come out. But actually, you're looking at, okay, I'm in this situation. What brings me down? This. And the fact you have to kind of going, right, I need this, but I'm not allowed to. And you have to have that argument with yourself of, do I want to get into trouble? How bad is this? Yes, I'm going to have to get into trouble because I need this. You shouldn't have to have that conversation. You should not. You should be able to go, you know what, miss, I'm going to stick my headphones in. I'm struggling. That is all that should be needed. Yeah, that understanding. I do struggle with, as our kind of children get bigger and older and more intelligent, it was almost like we try and keep them small by giving them these rules. But actually, as you've proven, you recognise that what rules are rules for a really good reasons, what rules are because, and I bet you respect the reason they wear blazers. You're not against blazers, but the fact it's causing you, the fact there's a red mark is causing you pain, it's going to be distracting you, you're going to have that redness in your head all day because it's there. That shouldn't be happening. That just, without any other reason, that just should not happen. And if there's a rule which says, well, we have to, it's like, I've always struggled with the uniform, but when a child is being left every day with a mark on their neck due to their tics, due to wearing that blazer, that should be a no-brainer.
I think when you mentioned those 4 words at the beginning, and one of them, apart from engage, one of them was attend. I have a real bugbear around this focus on attendance. Don't get me wrong, of course we want students in school, but attending, being, whether it's in the building or in a specific lesson, in that English lesson for Alice, that doesn't mean that you're learning. If you've not got the support you need to be there and engage as well as attend, kind of what's the point? You know, you're there, you're a bum on a seat, Alice, aren't you? You're not actually getting any benefit from the lesson. And I know that's not because you're choosing not to. It's just you can't, as you said several times, you physically and emotionally can't. But if there is a simple fix, like changing the blazer, like putting some earphones in for a few minutes, why not just do that?
Because we said so. Right, so we've hit our time. We've come to the end. So I'm going to ask Claire first if there's anything you want to add, although you probably just said it, but is there anything to add, Claire? And then we'll end with you, Alice.
I think just to completely reiterate that, you know, we really do need to listen to our students. They're not out there to fleece us. They're not out there to make excuses. They are trying to do their very best, quite often in some very difficult circumstances. We should never assume that we know what they need. And that conversation can be, for some, literally life-changing. So let's have those conversations.
I think if you're a student that is struggling with school and in school, or anything really, even college, speak up and tell, like, teachers or bosses or whatever, tell them about you. And if you're living with a neurological condition, tell them what helps and what makes it worse, because it's important for you to feel comfortable in a place that you're going to be basically every day. And it's not fair for you to have hate to go into that space. And I think speak up, because it can help.
Definitely. And the last bit I'm going to add is, Alice, you said there's no such thing as normal. What I would say is every child generally wants to fit in. You kind of want to be yourself, but you also want to be invisible. You don't want anyone pointing at you. You don't probably want a reduced timetable. You want to have the same opportunities. You want to drive. You want to do this. You want to be not like everyone else. You want to be your version of everyone else. And I don't think there are many children who don't kind of want those things. What they've got is barriers in them achieving it. And sometimes those barriers are as small as people not knowing them and people not listening to them. And to me, that should be a simple thing to fix. There should be someone who knows you and understands you who can be your champion. That shouldn't be hard to fix. Yet it makes a huge world of difference. As you said, Alice, Claire kind of helping you being able to wear that hoodie. Wasn't your favourite hoodie, wasn't a band hoodie, wasn't a Pokemon hoodie, wasn't a that hoodie, it was a plain black hoodie. So again, you're not trying to get out of it. You're going, I know it's got to be a kind of a plain thing. I know this. I'm not. I get it. But actually, the difference that made to you by someone allowing you and supporting you in doing that made a huge difference. Yet in reality, it shouldn't have had to happen. So I've really enjoyed today. Thank you for coming on, Alice and Claire. It's amazing what somebody with Tourette's, who apparently hates school, hates everything about life, how articulate you are. So, and I'm saying that sarcastically, just to be clear. But often when people think children aren't attending or they're disrupting, there's an assumption of they can't, they're choosing not to. But actually, the number of times I meet people who have such an amazing point of view, they get it, they understand it, and they can articulate it so well, yet they're never listened to, which is really sad. So I'm hoping if you have been listening to Alice isn't 1 in a billion or 1 in a million. Sadly, she's probably about 1 in 30 of children around this country who aren't listened to, who aren't supported, who don't have those reasonable adaptations made for them, who are just trying to get through school and get those GCSEs and get on to the next thing that they want to do. So please think, if you're listening, how many Alices have you got in your school? How many Alices haven't been heard? How many Alices haven't been listened to? And how many Alices can you help? Really important. Claire and Alice have shared me various links, so you can follow Alice on Instagram and find out about all the work Claire does at the Indigo Owl Coaching Consultancy. And as always, you'll find those show notes wherever you listen to the podcast on the Sencast website. Please follow us on all the social medias, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok and Blue Sky. Search for the Sencast and you'll find us there. And the Sencast is created and produced by us here at B Squared. We have a range of assessment frameworks that suits a wide range of students. And today I'm going to mention our new alternative provision framework. The framework was developed by Philip Parker of InspireEd to help alternative provision settings in supporting students to reintegrate into mainstream education wherever appropriate. And it covers 5 key areas: emotional self and identity, personal management independence, relationships and communication, thinking and achievement, and society and citizenship. And in the show notes, you'll find a link to the B Squared website to find out more, or a link to book a meeting with me and take you through the framework. But for now, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Sencast. It's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me. Thank you for having me.
Goodbye from me. Thank you for having me as well.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.